Fantasy football minds, no compromise. They got the knowledge you crave. Expert advice. Hard hitting insight gonna make you win. Listen up closely, let the games begin. Top pick sleepers every week I spin. The FF universe, it help you win. The fantasy football universe.
FFU, welcome into another grade. This one's grade R mock, not grade my mock, but I am SC Romero of the FFU, the Devy Mastermind, joined today by my guy Spencer. Y'all know him. He's been on the show, very knowledgeable in the sport, but also join us to grade our first round NFL mock is none other than the Dynasty dog himself, Mike Anthony. How y'all doing today, guys?
Good.
Doing great,
How are
man.
you?
Gotta do it, man. Everyone loves the dog bark, right? I'm trying to get the Braun Breaker going on. I know you know a little bit about him, so when you enter the shows, if there's a live chat, everyone's going, doing the barking with you, so you go in there. But now, man, excited to have y'all both. This was kind of a spur of the moment going live here, but we really want to every year, me, Spencer, and our guy JT, we do a 7-round NFL mock in players that we think where they go, based on tape that we've watched, on what we've seen from them, and where we think, they can go. Some drop, some fall, some rise, whatever it may be. But this is going to be going over our first round that we have. And Mike, as you've done in the past with me, you're going to go ahead and give us a grade. We'll break down some of the offensive guys. We'll talk some IDP here and there. People in the chat, if y'all want to go ahead and comment on specific guys that y'all like the landing spots. If y'all hate it, you're like, if that happens, I'm out. Whatever it may be, this is just a fun time to be alive. As the NFL Combine is going on, we wanted to kind of get ahead of it. We may change some picks here and there based on, combine results, stuff like that, just on what we see NFL teams do. But for the most part, we already have a full first round. We're in the second round ourselves. We're not going to talk about that because we're not completed with it, but we're going to go over our first round pick so that way we can, see it. And Mike, just for clarification for the people watching, you have not seen this mock yet. So you don't know where any of these picks go. This is completely new to you. But that's the beauty of graded, right? Because you're kind of behind the scenes seeing like, all right, this makes sense on it or it doesn't, right? So excited to have you graded. Spencer, any thoughts before we dive into the draft here?
No, I mean, there's already some picks I'm looking at that I regret. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
For sure. Mike, as always, you have great takes, so this is gonna be exciting just having you graded. So let's go ahead and dive in to number one. We don't do trades or anything like that. I know there will be trades in the NFL draft, but those are very, very difficult to predict. I would say more difficult to predict than actual picks themselves, right? So this is just straight. We didn't assume any trades happened. I think a couple trades may happen in the first round. This is just what we have the draft order as right now and where we think they go. So starting with number one, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock, and they choose none other than Miami quarterback Cam Ward. There's already been speculation. The rumor came out that they already closed trade talks, like they're not open to trading out that pick. Will Levis is there. A slight opportunity for me. Did think Abdul Carter goes, but man, I think what I've seen in interviews is just helping elevate Cam Ward's stock. What I've seen in the field helps it, and I think they need more of a playmaker. I do like Will Levis, but I think Will Levis is a more content as a backup. Like he can go in there and shine, but I don't see him as a full 17-game starter. Miami quarterback Cam Ward, he could be a 17-game starter. I think he's a leader. I think he's going to take this team to new heights. Granted, there's still holes they need to fill, but this is definitely a top one. Spencer, I'll start with you. When I made this pick, what were your thoughts? Was it just no-brainer, or was there some question in your mind?
Yeah, I think that originally I was like, maybe Abdul Carter goes here, but with the foot injury reports, I think it's pretty safe to say Cam Ward's probably going. I feel for Will. Me and him, high school buddies. I think unfortunately the ship has sailed for him in the NFL as a starter, at least with the Titans.
For sure.
Hope he can find his leg somewhere else.
Maybe he'll be the spokesperson for mayo and coffee, but I don't know. Mike, so what are your thoughts on Tennessee taking Cam Ward 101?
Yeah, I like this pick. I think this is going to be the pick, to be honest with you. It wouldn't shock me if Abdul Carter is the one, but I think the correct pick for Tennessee is Cam Ward. They desperately need a quarterback. I loved Will Levis as well, but some of the boneheaded plays he makes are, well, it used to be, what was it, the not top 10 on Sports Center when they did the top 10 and they did he would have an entire archive to himself of plays that he's made. Yeah, I love Cam Ward. Bet against him if you want to. It's not going to be me, though.
For sure. For sure, I love it. Now, I mean, as I mentioned, the holes mentioned, they're gonna need some weapons, right? They're gonna need some offensive weapons. Is Tony Pollard their guy still? Is Tajay Spears the next up? Or is that the guy they're gonna trust? Luckily, this is a deep running back class, but there's gonna be some more weapons on it. Being a 101, I don't think with what they have right now, he necessarily goes in there as a balls, but I think it does give them a better shot in competing. It was starting to be a competitive AFC South as well. But let's go ahead and get into pick 2. And we actually go quarterback again. I think this was Spencer's pick, so I'm gonna let him take it away. But it was the Cleveland Browns at pick 2, and they go Colorado quarterback Xavier Sanders. Spencer, talk to us about this pick for you.
Yeah, so this is the one that I immediately regret. But I mean, I think it's possible. So, I've seen a lot of mocks where they go Carter, they go Hunter, but I think that they need a quarterback. I mean, it's an obvious hole. Watson, it's done. They need someone cheap. If you believe in Shador, which a lot of people do, he's confident. He's been talking about how he likes the Browns. I think that this is a very realistic possibility. I don't like the prospect personally. I think he's a little too. My comp is he's Patrick Mahomes with Ben Roethlisberger's athleticism. Doesn't work. It won't at the NFL. But I think that an NFL team could fall in love with him, and that could be the Browns. It's a classic Browns quarterback pick.
Yeah, and Doy big. I mean, this is gonna be interesting because I think again they should get a quarterback. I don't see them sign Jameis. That would be the smarter move, I think, so you can get somewhere else. Especially if they're losing Myles Garrett. If Abdul Carter's right there and you lost Garrett, I don't know why they don't go there. But at the same time, if you're not signing Jameis, then you're gonna have to get someone. Like there's Watson maybe out this year again. So with that, I do agree that that's a good pick for them. But at the same time, we've also heard rumors that Coach Prime is gonna say, "Nah, you can't go there," right? So it'll be interesting to see if that happens and what it is. Mike, what are your thoughts on this pick?
So, I mean, we had Adam Schefter, I think, report last week that the Browns are going to be taking a quarterback at some point during this draft. So it makes sense that they do it here with Shador. I think this honestly depends on what happens with Myles Garrett if he is a Philadelphia Eagle by the end of the draft. Because I could see them taking. Yeah, had to throw that in there. Because I could see them taking Abdul Carter if they do end up moving from Myles Garrett, and then maybe taking that pick at 32 and moving up again. Well, depending on what they do, there could be a million things that they could end up doing. But they do definitely need a quarterback, so I have no issue here with that.
The thing with this class, the quarterback class, there is a significant teardrop as far as when you go from, I would say, QB3 to the QB4. I mean, I think my Cam Ward is my QB1. Shador and Jackson Dart are very close for me. I do have Shador slightly above Dart, but Dart is like right there by him. And then there's a drop. So if they're saying they need a quarterback, I think they can't pass on Dart, right? So if Dart's there, you have to figure out how can I move up to get him. If you pass on Shador, because at 2, if you're moving back, even like you got to move back to still in the top 10 and potentially take Dart there. But yeah, that's a very tough pick for them. I think they have to, because if you think your franchise is there, which they have multiple times and it hasn't been their franchise, you got to take the chance though, right? So we'll see. Maybe Shador does have a horrible year, then he's the Baker Mayfield, right? Gets traded and balls out, which is another quarterback I can't think off the top that was in Cleveland to start and then went elsewhere and started balling too. But that was it there. So let's go ahead into our pick 3 here. This is our first IDP here, and it is none other than New York Giants taking Penn State edge Abdul Carter. Just an all-around great athlete. This guy is going to do wonders at the next level. It's just don't question it. I mean, yeah, the foot injury happens. It's okay. I mean, really, I think when you're in college, when you're in high school, go to college, go to NFL, each year you progress, or each couple years you go to that next level, your ability to get medical attention increases, right? Like the doctors you're seeing are actually it's a deeper dive into what you're doing. So who knows if Abdul Carter was, having some sort of slight injury like this, and then all of a sudden goes, NFL combine stuff. Doctors are looking at him like, nah, bro, like this is really what you need to do, to it. So I'm not concerned about it. The tape doesn't lie. He's a phenomenal athlete. One of the best defensive players in this draft, arguably the best. This would be phenomenal, especially because Kayvon Thibodeau hasn't. He's done great, but I don't think he's panned out to what the Giants wanted in him originally. So having this on the side there would be phenomenal for him. Mike, thoughts on here?
Yeah, this is a good move for them. Obviously, missing out on a quarterback with the first 2 picks, they need to adjust. And then, they have a steady offensive line. I think Thibodeau's okay, like you mentioned. I think he can be a game wrecker, just hasn't really gotten to that point yet. Dexter Lawrence and then Abdul Carter. That's a scary offensive line. It's just how long did the Giants let another elite Penn State player walk to the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm kidding. I had to throw that in there because I see the New York Giants hoodie on Spencer.
Are you an Eagles fan?
No. I'm actually a Steelers fan on the other side. But no, I think this would be an actually great pick, and it would scare me a little bit with the defensive line that they are starting to build in New York.
Yeah, Spencer, I would let you because you are, the Giants fan. But I think every division has a top dog, and then you see other teams in that division try to build on that. So what Philadelphia has done with that defensive front, that defensive system there, is testament to saying, hey, for the other teams, all right, we need to do this too, because this team is young too. It's not like it's a bunch of vets; like they have a young firing squad on defense that these teams need to start. Okay, we need to build some defensive players here. We can't get free agent veterans at this point.
And they also, not only that, they need to, the Eagles have a stud offensive line. They need to adjust to that, build that defensive line. But then they have Jaden Daniels in Washington, who they now need to worry about.
Right.
And the Cowboys are starting to fall by the wayside. So the Giants can start to, uptick everything by making a move like this.
For sure. Spencer, what are your thoughts? How excited would you be if they got Abdul Carter here?
Yeah, I mean, he's my second choice. I definitely prefer Travis Hunter, but because our secondary is atrocious, and I think we could use another wide receiver. So the 2-for-1 would be more exciting to me, but I would not be upset about Abdul Carter. I think we need the best player available over quarterback, unless Cam Ward somehow gets to us or we trade up. This would be the slam dunk. One of Carter or Hunter would be ideal. We're not a quarterback away.
We've seen teams do crazier. Maybe Tennessee takes Shador and Cleveland gets start, and Giants are sitting there and Cam Ward's right there. You never know. Things happen.
Yeah.
So could very well happen. But I think this is a stand up pick for them. For IDP purposes, this would be phenomenal for your team. I think he can make some big impact, get some sacks for you, and things of that nature for you as well. Number 4 here. I won't spend too much time on here, but pick 4 is New England, and they do just a very simple move in protecting their quarterback and getting the best offensive lineman in the draft, and Will Campbell, LSU. Look, I get the Travis Hunters are there. I get Ted McLaurin is there. I get Jency's there. I get you have some offensive weapon pieces here, but they found their franchise quarterback. Your line isn't the best. When you find your franchise quarterback, protect him at all costs. And Drake May is someone that he is potentially just going to get better. We saw signs of explosiveness. We saw his rookie flaws. He's someone that understands the game, has a great IQ. He's going to get better. But to make that happen, you need to make sure he's being protected. So I think if this guy is here, it's a no-brainer here. Mike, do you agree with this pick?
Yeah, I've been pounding the table for the Patriots to take an offensive lineman because the most important thing, like you mentioned, is protecting Drake May and giving him time to throw to wide receivers. And this isn't the most top-heavy wide receiver class, or this is a top-heavy wide receiver class, and you can get decent guys in the second and third round that you could maybe build around. And 2 guys you took last year, you didn't really give a shot to.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there.
For sure. Spencer, any thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that they need to do this. They got to protect Drake May, and I think he's the type of quarterback who can elevate, especially if you give him time.
Right.
So having a better line and giving time is better than giving him, I think, a fringy, maybe a good wide receiver, but it's hard to tell in this class, honestly.
For sure. Yeah, this class, yeah, the wide receivers, the biggest thing is they took shots on later wide receivers last year, so maybe this year they're like, no, we can't do that. So that's it. But yeah, I think you have to go in there and do what you can to protect May. Let's go into the next one. Jacksonville. I'm giving away the insight before we even drop it. But Jacksonville is taking a guy that's some say he won't even get this far, but they're going ahead and get Colorado defensive back / wide receiver Travis Hunter. He said, I'm just different. Like, I'm built different. I could do this. I can play both sides. They do need defensive back. They could use someone opposite of BTJ. Mike, what were your thoughts if Jacksonville slips it? They get Travis Hunter here.
I mean, this would be a perfect move for them, and I think he would be better in Jacksonville as a corner because they are so defensive back needy on that team. And I think he would probably play a majority of snaps at corner on that team. Obviously, he could play wide receiver too, but there's no way in hell he's playing 100% of snaps on both sides of the football. And it does fill a need, whether which side he ends up playing.
Agreed. Now, Fletcher, I know you're here. I actually think you made this pick actually. So, was this a no-brainer for you? You're just like, thought you're not going to pass on his talent. They got to take him.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was. They needed defensive back. I think he's the best corner in the draft right now. And then they also could use a wide receiver 2/3, and I think he's the best wide receiver in the draft as well. So sure. it kind of like the 2-for-1 special. Like, I think he could probably play 90%, 80% of defensive snaps and 70-60% offensive. Kind of be okay. He was 100 in college. So if you take the physicality, you drop it down a little bit, I think he could manage. I think he can hang. He's a special talent. Yeah.
It's more so if they line up a running play, just don't put him on the field. Like, if it's passing play, get him on. But if it's running, just don't, let him.
Yeah, that gives everything away then.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. It's like, they're running the ball for sure. Now, Mike, I'll ask you this though. When it comes, like, let's say he's drafted. He said he'll play both sides. But let's say Roger Goodell comes out, whoever comes out is like with the 5th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars take cornerback, Colorado cornerback Travis Hunter. Does that, because that's gonna be a big question. Like, where you might do, a lot of people do the rookie drafts right after the draft. So, as a fantasy player, if he's spoken as a cornerback getting drafted, are you risking taking him as a pick right now, unknowing if he's even gonna play wide receiver snaps? Because he's gonna be on the draft boards. Like, they're gonna. It feels like draft boards on offensives that don't play IDP will have Travis Hunter on the draft board. So, are you gonna take that risk in drafting him if he's a top 5, top 10 pick?
IDP, yes. On IDP, no. I can't risk that. I can't, because that's gonna be a first-round pick. In even an offensive draft. I can't risk that when there's players that I still really like, obviously not to the talent of a Travis Hunter, but I can't take that risk and him never play an offensive snap. Or not. I mean, obviously he's going to play offensive snaps, right, but the risk at it being like 10% or something crazy like that.
Right. Spencer, what about for you? What percentage would you need to know, okay, Travis Hunter is playing this many snaps on offense for you to feel comfortable to say I can draft him as an offensive player?
So I just punched like the what I would do kind of into my little grading system, and he still came out tied wide receiver 2. Right now he's my clear-cut wide receiver 1. Mm-hmm. He'd be tied with Emeka, or Trey Harris would jump to 1. So I think I'd still be taking a shot in the mid-first. Okay. 50% of snaps, 45. Okay. He's so dynamic. You watch him play. He's got true wide receiver 1 upside. So, I'd still take a shot.
The fortunate part for Hunter is, I think, if he does go off or he plays defense to get some offense, at that point it's gonna be a boom or bust. So it's gonna feel like whenever he booms, those are gonna be times to sell. If you're seeing, all right, he's not getting the snaps I want, I need to get what I can to try to make up for that pick as well. But I'm with you, Mike. I think IDP great. There's some people that I play IDP Devy leagues with, and they had him. Fantastic. There's people I play, offensive like Devy leagues, and they had him, and it's like, oh, they're kind of buying it right now. They don't know if they're going to drop him, but it is what it is. He's a phenomenal talent. And I think there's going to be some great things that come out from what we see in Travis Hunter, whatever side he plays on the field. For NFL perspective, he's going to be a great athlete for these teams. So it's going to be exciting to see what he can do there at that next level as well. But let's get into our next pick here. These next two, we're just going to kind of slide through here, but it's going to be the Raiders at number 6. That's going to be they're getting another offensive tackle here in Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas. Yes, they need a quarterback, but they could probably get one later. They might bring in a free agent, maybe Aaron Rodgers, maybe I can't think of another. Jameis Winston, maybe I don't know. Sam Darnold, right? And so if they get that, makes sense for them to go there if they end up bringing in a veteran, right? If they don't, I can see Dart possibly going here, but I think they bring in a veteran and they try to fill other pieces. So there he goes with there. And then pick 7, New York Jets get Ohio State offensive lineman Josh Simmons. Again, just somewhere where they've been tied to, bring in maybe Sam Darnold, which would be fun, if he goes back to the Jets there. But, they got to protect him there, right? So I think that's just a big one here for them. These are the top 3 offensive linemen, in my opinion, are off the board. And I think these teams are like, all right, we're not going to, if you have a solid cornerstone on the offensive line, that's a big boost to your offense in general, right? We've seen it this year alone where offensive tackles went down and the offense just went into the hole. They just completely lost it. So having those cornerstones are big, and you get Kelvin Banks for the Raiders, Josh Simmons for the Jets, I think goes a long way here. But actually, pick number 8, Spencer, this is your pick again, and he was this guy. Like I said, man, we get some spicy takes here. But pick number 8, Carolina's on the clock, and they get Spencer. Is this your tight end one?
This is the tight end one.
Okay, there you go.
And honestly, I was thinking, they need a pass catcher. But what every quarterback loves is a weapon, and Tyler Warren he's not just a tight end. He's a true weapon. He lines up in the backfield. He lines up in the slot. He lines up out wide. He's got the best hands out of the tight ends, I think. He's crafty in his route running. He kind of gets all 3 levels, and I think he's a dynamic athlete. He's not the best pass blocker, but he's a heck of a lot better than Loveland is. So, I think he can stay on the field, which is a big thing. So yeah. I was between this and, a Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, because I think they have to get a pass catcher. And I think that getting a guy who can do a little bit more for you, help elevate the running game, more important to a franchise right now is a chess piece like Tyler Warren.
Very nice. Well, what do you think with this pick, Mike?
Yeah, I at first when you said it, I was like, I don't know about that. But then in reality, I started to think about it, and you started breaking it down, Spencer. I actually agree with it. This is a guy who can win at all levels, like you mentioned. And I think Bryce really needs somebody that can create for him after the catch as well. So this is a good pick.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think this will be phenomenal. They need that guy that can block outside. This is essentially an extra lineman for them, right, that they can get here. So I actually love that pick there. New Orleans here is on the clock at pick 9, and they're going to go IDP as well in getting Georgia's linebacker / edge guy there in Jalen Walker. I think this is just, again, you see this talent drop to you. It's like, okay, I got to go ahead and get that for you as well. So do y'all want to add anything onto it? I know it's IDP, so we're not going to spend too much on it.
No, they do need to address that, defensive linebacker position pretty drastically, and they need to get as young as possible because they have the least amount of cap space by a wide margin in the NFL right now.
Right, and they have some older guys there, so they need to start getting it. Let's dive into pick 10 because this is where it gets spicy as well. So there is speculation that the Dallas Cowboys go ahead and get Boise State. I made this pick. Ben Johnson is the new OC, or no, the new head coach, in Chicago. think if he's here, they're not letting him slip. And the Chicago Bears draft at 110 Boise State running back Ashton Genty. They see what they can have in a potential type of explosive runner like Gibbs, that just very elusive. I know DeAndre Swift is there, but let's be real. Ben Johnson, what's his guy? He's not going to go trade Caleb Williams because they just got him right first overall. But he sees the running back. He's like, I'm going to get my guy here. And they get Boise State Genty. Spencer, what were your thoughts when I made this pick?
So I thought it was spicy because O-line is such a big need for them. But, a little spoiler alert, they have 2 early second round picks. And they are going to address that. So as we went through that, I loved it. Because you can't get a more dynamic weapon. Swift isn't it. And he'd be a good complement, I think, to Genty. So I think it's a good spot. I mean, he's probably the best running back in the draft. I go back and forth on him a little bit, but can't argue with kind of the consensus here.
Mike, what are your thoughts? What does this mean for Genty truthers that are taking him at 101?
Yeah, he washes and takes DeAndre Swift's lunch money, to be honest with you. So this is a good pick. I do agree with Spencer. They do need offensive line, but to my knowledge, this is a deeper offensive line class. You can get guys a little bit later on. So this is a good pick, but I would rather than protect Caleb Williams and maybe draft like Omari and Hampton in the second round.
There you go. Spoiler alert: Hampton doesn't get to the second round in this mock here.
Oh,
but
why would you do that?
With Genty, I actually said it in our chat that we have going on, because the top 3 are taken, the top 3 offensive linemen. That's the reason why I said Chicago takes it. It's because we had Simmons, Banks, and even Johnson go already, that they're like, man, all right, we're not going to go and get the 4th best offensive line. We're just going to get the best running back, at this point. And like you just said, Mike, later in the draft, we'll address that lead because that is a need of theirs as well. But let's go ahead and move it forward as well. Spencer, this was your pick again. Deebo Samuel's on the move. So San Francisco gets Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden. Spencer, walk us through this pick when you made it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously most people think of Tet as kind of the upper echelon, but I'm thinking about, what does San Francisco love? They love a guy who can, create after the catch. They really struggled this last year in actually doing that. George Kittle was kind of the only yak guy. Ayuk wasn't himself, got hurt. So Burden kind of fills in. He is the best yak guy in the class. He forced 30 missed tackles. It's insane. He's like a running back once he gets the ball in his hands. Reminds you of anyone? But I think he has true route running potential. I think he's a better overall wide receiver than Deebo Samuel, and a little bit. Nobody's going to be Deebo Samuel. He's the best at what he does. That's why everyone gets compared to him. But Burden is about as close as I've seen. So I think he kind of fits in. Pearsall can stay the 3. Ayuk hopefully steps up, and Juwan Jennings looked good.
Jennings.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably better served as their 4, deep possession guy. So this is a dynamic player that they need.
Now, Mike, for San Francisco in general, we've seen their their wide receivers has some issues, not necessarily like issues like that. We've just seen them struggle for fantasy purposes. So I think you have Burden as your 1, if I'm not mistaken, Mike.
Burden is my 1.
So what does this mean for you if you see San Francisco take Burden as your 1? Does that solidify it? Does it make you feel a little bit uneasy at that, or what does that do for you?
This solidifies it to me. I think, especially if if Deebo is gone. Now Deebo stays and they somehow take Burden, then I'm going to be really confused as to what the hell's going on. Sure. He's a 1A, 1B with Brandon Ayuk, in my opinion. Because I just saw something today about Brandon Ayuk's name being mentioned with Houston. So maybe they're going to overhaul everything, which if that happens, give me Burden at the 1-4, 1-5 in Superflex drafts, and probably for me over Tet McMillan. And most, he is my 1, but let's be real. If Tet gets better draft capital, I'm going to trade back and end up drafting Burden instead of taking Burden over Tet. Got to play a little bit of I just knocked all the water bottles off my desk. Yeah, I was excited. You got to play the value game in Dynasty or in fantasy football. So I think this is a good move. You mentioned Tet McMillan. But Juwan Jennings is 6'3". They already got the size out there. I think Pearsall is above 6 foot, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
Like 6'1", yeah.
Yeah.
6'1". So they have two taller end guys. Get a dude that can, replicate what Deebo does in Luther Burden.
Right. Yeah, and speaking of trade back or what you say, you gotta play the game. That's a big part. Consensus. Looking at what we do, we analyze our prospects, right? So looking at consensus, there's consensus ranking, fantastic. Above the consensus, there's also your league rankings, right? If you're in your league chats, you understand how players in your league value. I've actually been saying this a lot more lately because I'm getting some trades from league mates, and I'm like, it's not a bad trade, man. Like I like it, but at the same time, I know what I'm getting in this trade doesn't do well for the league in the sense that I know it's going to be hard to trade these assets in the league because the league is as high on them. For example, Geno Smith is one. Geno Smith had a phenomenal year. Geno Smith has a new OC. Great. There's some big things that can boom. But my thing with it is if I try to acquire him, I don't want to pay what his necessary cost is being a top 15, 12 quarterback because I know this league specifically doesn't have that same value as him. So if I'm trading for what his cost is right now in his rankings, I'm actually losing it within this league because I even told the guy, Geno Smith could finish as QB1 overall next year, and I'm still not getting that value. Like I'm still going to get value of a QB20 in the sense because it's just the league doesn't value that specific guy, right? There's locked to certain quarterbacks, which is totally okay. I'm not against it, but that's in my sense, that's when you say play the game, Mike, that's what I'm thinking of is like you have to understand, okay, the draft position, all that stuff is great, but even if a guy gets great draft position, if your league wasn't high on him, it may not be worth it. For example, Shador. If your league's not all over Shador, if they're not like, he's the QB1 or QB2, then there might be reason to bring even at that capital at number 2, I don't even know if I want to take it because if that flops, there's no one in the league that wants him in the sense, and they said that, right? So
one of my home leagues is Penn State and Michigan fans. So guess who's falling in both of those drafts? Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. So I'm going to eat all of that. So exactly, know your league mates.
Yeah. I love that. I would, that they fall. I'm hoping that I have 201 in the league, and I'm hoping one of them drops there, but we'll see. Next one, though, Dallas is on the clock, and you mentioned, who gets better draft capital, Mike Burden or Artette. Well, they're actually right here. We had Dallas actually going Arizona wide receiver Ted McMillan. This is just someone they as well need a weapon. They need something that just to play offset CD. It doesn't look like they have much outside of that. Grant Dak was hurt last year. They do need a running back as well, but with Chicago jumping them and taking them, Gentry there, I think they go and said, all right, we're going to get someone to actually use CD in the full slot, right? Have him in that slot. And now we have our X there in Tet, and CD is the guy that we move, and he's adjustable. CD is still the wide receiver 1, but they're going to be utilizing Tet as that X receiver and being him the guy. What are your thoughts here with Ted McMillan to Dallas?
Which one do you want to go first?
You go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, I 100% agree with this, especially with what you mentioned about CeeDee Lamb being the slot, the power slot, basically, the slot. And it almost a St. Brown type role. Obviously, they can both play, outside, inside, doesn't matter. But getting a solidified big body X wide receiver here kind of opens up everything for CeeDee Lamb. So I'm all aboard with that.
Beautiful. Spencer, what were your thoughts with Ted? I think this was actually JT's pick. So what are your thoughts?
This was JT's pick. So I mean, I think Ted is I think this is actually where he's going to fall to. I don't think he's going to be not participating in the combine. It's the speed is in question, separation in question. I think he's going to fall to here. I think it's a good pick for Dallas. Dak has shown that he's willing to throw it up to guys who don't get separation.
Right.
Like Jalen Tolbert. It doesn't get any separation, and he did pretty well last year with Dak. Michael Gallup got no separation, and he did pretty well. So Dak loves this type of receiver. It's a good fit. He's probably best player available, honestly. So I think it's a good fit.
Yeah. And so we have 6 offensive players off the board here. I think would y'all agree that Tyler Warren would still be the last pick you're taking, or does that mean are you taking Dallas or Ted McMillan or Luther Burden as one of the last ones? Because we had Shador, Cam, Genty already go, Tyler Warren, and then you have Burden and Ted. Does Ted slip? Because I feel right now I see him within a top 4 in mocks that I'm seeing it in rookie mocks. Does he slip beyond top 4 with this pick, Mike?
In dynasty drafts,
Yeah.
I mean, especially if the 2 quarterbacks go 1-2, then
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And then, Genty is going to get in that 1, 2, 3 type
Mm-hmm.
range, just depending on team needs and stuff like that, and league scoring and stuff. Then it's going to be pick your poison with Burden and Ted. For
Right.
me, if they're going back to back like this, I'm going to take my guy over Ted.
For sure.
Consensus might go the opposite direction, though.
So, Spencer, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with Tet in Dallas, you got to assume his upside is probably capped because CeeDee's always going to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see him falling, because what a projection's going to be, like 55 for 1,006. I mean,
Right.
that's like a maximum cap. So I could see Warren kind of jumping. At least in my ranks, he definitely would because I'm very low on Tet. I'm not a huge fan of the skill set. So consensus, I kind of agree they probably jump up.
Fair.
But yeah, I think Tet would fall with this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, at that point, like if you're going later first, it's like, all right, well, this guy got the hype, might as well take a shot here. Let's go ahead and go through these next picks here, though. This is going to be we're gonna get just a fire sale here with these next 3 real quick. Pick 13, Miami going Michigan defensive back Will Johnson. They just need that help, so this is just gonna iron sharpens iron. They're gonna help out with their wide receivers there and get someone. They have some veterans there, but they need some youth there, and taking arguably the best defensive back in the class, I think, is a no-brainer for them here. But speaking on that here, Indy at pick 14 actually goes to defensive back as well, and Jahdae Barron, again, just another top guy. They need someone there as well just to help them out. And then pick 15, we're going to go Atlanta gets Marshall defensive lineman Mike Green, a solid factor. They need that help as well. They struggled to just add pressure on the quarterback last year. So this is going to be a huge opportunity for them to start beefing that up because this is a pretty solid defensive lineman class, in my opinion. So they could get options multiple areas of the draft, but they get one of the top guys here. Mike, on those 3 picks, anyone that caught your eye?
Mike Green to Atlanta. They desperately need defensive linemen and an elite defensive lineman. And I love Mike Green just based on what I've seen. It wouldn't shock me if Atlanta does something silly like draft another wide receiver, another running back, another quarterback, not addressing any of the needs that they have, just the shiny toy. But yeah, I like this pick. Him and Abdul Carter would still be one in IDP defensive lineman, but this would make him a pretty solid 2, in my opinion.
I'm glad you just said that with IDP because we saw Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson just going through it. Jalen Walker might end up being one in New Orleans, and then we saw Abdul Carter. The defensive backs, if you're playing IDP, chances are you're going to drop them. Unless safeties, you could take guaranteed safety, but defensive backs, their value is crazy because a lot of times, especially in the first round, they're shutdown guys, meaning quarterbacks don't target them, so they just see less opportunity. So just consider that when you're doing your IDP drafts as well. But let's go ahead into pick 16 here. This is the Arizona Cardinals, and this was my pick. And I actually say they get Marvin Harrison Jr.'s old friend there, and they actually get Emeka Egbuka to add more options there for Kyler Murray. I didn't like what let's say saw Mike Wilson. He's good, don't get me wrong, but if they have an opportunity to get someone like Emeka Egbuka, now you have Trey McBride. You already have Benson sitting behind Connor. Now you're gonna go in there and say, okay, now we have options here, so there's no excuse for Kyler, right? I think they're getting on that short lease now, where it's like, bro, if we give you this, there is no excuses for you at all. You have arguably the best wide receiver in the draft last year, prior to the season. Arguably the overall best tight end right now, and then I guess you borrows, right? So arguably, but then now you have Emeka Egbuka here as well. Mike, I saw you go kind of shocked there. What are your thoughts with this pick?
Yeah, I didn't really see this one coming, but it actually makes sense when you break it down. Kyler really needs all the help he can get, unfortunately, at this point. Marv didn't really show out last year. I don't think that's necessarily all on him. I think him and Kyler were not on the same page. And I also, maybe there was a little bit of, I already know that I'm better than everybody else, so I don't have to try as hard with Marv. So I hope this year is a little bit different.
Yeah.
But again, this is just a good overall move for Arizona to get more firepower for Kyler, because they are starting to get into that territory of, hey, we need to make a decision here soon.
Yeah. Spencer, I brought this pick into the chat there. What were your thoughts when I made this pick?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I definitely thought he would fall a little further, but it makes sense when you break it down, like as Mike said. Kyler, there is a prove it kind of year here. And if it doesn't work with all of that firepower, you kind of weighing in the last few years of James Conner here, who's been carrying that offense in spite of having a massively paid
Literally and
quarterback.
figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with how many good quarterbacks there are next year, I think if it doesn't work, you go get a quarterback next year, you move on from Kyler, and you have a good situation for him. So
If you have
yeah.
have Marvin Harrison, Igbuka, Trey McBride, Connor's another year older, so now you have Benson. It doesn't work out for Kyler this year, and then you go and bring in someone like Garrett Nussmeier. You bring in someone like Drew Allard, even. You bring in someone like Arch Manning potentially. Like what? I mean, it is a make or break it type of move for them to say, look, Kyler, like we want you to be our guy, but if you want to play Call of Duty, by all means, go play it. Go be with the FaZe Clan, do your thing. But we're gonna go ahead and move on from you in next year's class by all means too. Let's go ahead and get into these next picks here. We're gonna go through these next three pretty quickly as well. But Cincinnati adds up on their defensive line game. Georgia defensive lineman Mykel Williams. I think this is a little bit later than him. I think it's hard with Atlanta taking Mike Green. This is a good pick for them, and they took him as well. Mykel Williams is a stud when it comes to IDP. He's going to be a solid just holder, and Cincinnati does need that. Seattle at pick 18 goes ahead and gets Alabama offensive lineman Tyler Booker. So this is another one, pretty good one. But the guys we talked about before, I'd take them over Booker just because that talent is there. But this is a smart move for Seattle just to bulk up that offensive lineman for them. And then Tampa at number 19 is going Texas A&M edge Nick Gordon. Now, I know Shamar Stewart had a great combine, talked about him rising up. So that's going to be interesting to see what that does. For me on tape, I really loved what I saw in Nick Gordon. Not just what he did at A&M. He actually elevated his stock when he went to A&M, but what he did at Purdue as well was something phenomenal. He's a solid edge rusher, has the explosiveness to get around and add the pressure. So I think Tampa's they're going to do phenomenal things with him. And with an already weaker NFC South, this can just help Tampa just build up on, okay, we're the top dog here for them as well. Mike, through any of those picks, anything stand out to you?
I do like that score. I don't know how to say Nick Scoreton. Is that how you say it? I like that pick. Yeah, I think they're building a nice defensive line with Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, and adding Sorton to that would be very solid, especially at a team that needs the offense, needs to keep improving that defense.
Yep. Agreed. They need a solid, solid defense, because if you had the solid defense, helps Baker, be a little bit better as well. Let's go into pick 20 here, though. This is going to be Spencer's, and Spencer's in love with the tight ends here. But Denver on the clock at pick 20, and they're getting arguably the tight end one of the class, depending on who you talk to, Colston Loveland. Spencer, walk us through this pick when you made it.
Yeah, so I mean, we've heard all the talk about needing a joker, and I kind of went two ways here. I was between Loveland and Henderson. Because I've been hearing a lot of steam Denver's looking at running backs, but that happened after I took this pick. So Loveland fits into that joker role right away for Peyton. He's not a very good blocker. He's not very strong. Like his contested catchability, I think, is one of the weaker in the class for tight ends, but he's a really good route runner, and he's really good after the catch. He's an athletic mover. So I think he kind of fits into a Peyton role. He'd be good for fantasy, but I think there's a little more risk than some people are giving here just because of how bad he is play strength wise. But I think it'd be really interesting in that offense, and I think Bo Nix would love him.
So for you, Mike, Tyler Warren went to Carolina in the top 10, but you have Colston Loveland going to a quarterback that looked great last year in Bo Nix compared to Bryce Young or Warren. Who are you taking? Both are top 20 picks. Who are you taking first in the draft?
Still probably taking Warren. I think he's the number one in Carolina for sure. Colson Loveland would be slightly behind at least Sutton for another year or two until he really gets a chance to take that over. But still Warren for me. Yeah, he's my tight end one of the class. Loveland's tied for second still. I'm still holding out hope for Harold Fanning. Didn't have the best showing yesterday, but it wasn't the worst showing yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he at least participated. Loveland's got an injury, if I'm not mistaken, so we can't blame him for that. Like you mentioned, Spencer, really good route runner. Surprised he came in and the weight he did. He looked thinner to me, to be honest with you, and I think that has to do a lot with the play strength. So maybe he bulked up a little bit because I do think his blocking is pretty damn bad. But again, really good separator, good route runner. This is a good move for Denver just to keep adding pieces to Denver's offense and hopefully unlocks Marvin Mims just a little bit more.
There you go. Potentially, yeah. I think I would love this. This is just a great weapon for him. Would love it. He's not the best blocker. He can't do it. But I do think he's one of the more versatile tight ends in the class. I mean, Spencer, you're hitting on the money with the Joker spot. I think that's what's going to do well for fantasy, right? When we talk about these guys, it's how can they make a bigger fantasy impact? And he might not see the field as much, but when he is, I think he's a little bit more explosive here. With our next pick, go ahead.
Real quick on Loveland. In my notes for him and like guys like Arroyo, I have more of a wide receiver than a tight end.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
And
the
it
Mike
hurts
Gesicki
him.
role.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts them as
perfect,
far
yeah.
as not necessarily seeing the field, right? If you're doing running, you're not the blocking tight end, but it also elevates them in a sense for fantasy and saying, okay, these guys can make some big plays for you as well. Let's go with pick 21 here. Pittsburgh's on the clock, and I think with this pick, we're assuming they move on from Najee Harris. As I mentioned, my spoiler alert, but Pittsburgh gets Omarion Hampton at pick 21. What are your thoughts with this pick?
Bravo to you. I believe this was your pick, you said.
This was actually our guy JT.
This is JT, yeah.
Okay, so JT, bravo to you. I did a show a few weeks ago on the Dynasty Dogs podcast. I was just kind of throwing running backs at the wall with different spots, and there is rumors about Najee going on. So why not get Najee plus $1 million in Omarion Hampton? I think this dude is worthy of a first-round pick. Now, will it happen? No idea. Early second round at the worst. But again, this is a guy who can carry a full workload, be a pass catching option because people doubt that. I don't know why. Just go look at the numbers and look at the film. I don't think he's an elusive route runner as a running back, but he's a dude that has soft hands that can make plays after the catch. And that's all you really necessarily need in a Pittsburgh offense. So again, great pick with Omarion Hampton.
So, what were your thoughts when you saw Hampton to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, I love the spot. I love the player. He's I think he's my RB4 right now. No, he's my RB3. So but I think this would be a great spot. I agree. He's a good pass catcher. He's kind of like the James Conner type of pass catcher where he's
Good
not
call.
out there running routes. He's not juking a guy out and getting separation, but he's reliable and he gets going. He hit him in a little safety valve and he gets 4 yards.
Right.
It's Jonathan Taylor to me. It's the same thing with Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, with Najee, people are always, not Tyler Warren. Drawing a blank here. Jalen Warren, hurts him. If they keep Jalen Warren, are you thinking, okay, Warren gets the early snaps and then they kind of ease in Hampton, or is Hampton the front runner, especially if they take him in the first round?
Hampton's a front runner to me.
Yeah.
Jalen Warren will be the change of pace back. More obviously of a elusive runner and an elusive kind of backfield pass catching option than Hampton is. But Hampton to me is a 3-down workhorse back with Jalen spelling him.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Warren looked totally different last year than he had in previous years. The
He
injury
was
really
banged up,
sapped him.
right?
Yeah, he was really hurt all year. So he's got to get back from that and show that he can return to form, I think, before he's a threat to anyone like Hampton.
Yeah, so Mike, I know you're gonna have to be gated out of here shortly, so let's go ahead and power through here. But pick 22, the Chargers are on the clock. This is gonna surprise, but we saw Warren, we saw Loveland go. Maybe with the combine performance, it's not as great. Maybe with the RAS score, it's not as great. But I'd say this guy could do it. He's a phenomenal tight end. The Chargers get with pick 22. Bowling Green tight end Harold Fannin Jr. This is just something, I know they need a wide receiver, but I think there's still some wide receivers of value on the board that could be taken in the second round. You just saw the top 2 tight ends go. Arguably, Fanning could be the tight end 3 of the class. Arguably, he's the tight end 1 to some people when you're watching him. This is something they could have because, again, they need that position. And going deeper into this class, even if we talk about free agency, there's not a lot of options there. So you go ahead and solidify that position up, get a weapon for Herbert, and now you have someone that can explode down the field and just open up running games as well. I think this just fits what Harbaugh wants to do there. What are your thoughts with this pick, Mike?
Can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so fuck everything I said about Loveland and Warren. I would potentially first off, I don't really see this happening. I think Fannin at this point right now is looking like a late second round pick, maybe third. If this happens, though, I'm going to be acting completely irrational, especially with the offense that they have with, Ladd McConkey and him and Justin Herbert at quarterback. I will gladly continue to move back to take him in a rookie draft and let somebody else take Warren and Loveland. And that's no disrespect to them because they are top options. But this is like a my guy for me. And landing in that offense as a, kind of like you mentioned Joker earlier, guy who can create, guy who can move pretty well as a route runner, smart route runner, physical after the catch. Not the greatest blocker. He's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. And I think that because he's better at getting in space and blocking, which I think Harbaugh would appreciate. But again, this would make me act irrationally, and I apologize to everyone about the tweets that I would put out if this were to happen.
So, especially, what were your thoughts when I made this? I know this is one of your guys. They get baby Njoku, as you say.
Yeah, that's I thought this was a little higher than I expected because I agree, like second round, but I love the idea. He's I call him baby Njoku. Maybe like giant Isaiah Likely is even better. Like he's somewhere in between those two. It's like if they had a baby, it's Harold Fannin.
Can I give you my comp for him real quick? Now you mentioned that Delaney Walker.
Yeah, there you go. Like his and a lot of the talk about the combine, his 3-cone was sub 7, which is insane for a guy who's he came in 241, so he's also added about 10 pounds since the Senior Bowl, which is going to slow him down. Like he's looking to bulk up, show that he can put on the weight, because there was a lot of talk because he was 230 during the year, and but he's such a good route runner. He's got such good hands. He's reliable. The whip route that he runs, he probably runs like 15 of them a game, and he's open on 12. It's just like linebackers can't hang with how quick he is. Not the fastest guy, but it's a great fit.
Yeah, I think this is a testament to Ladd. Ladd came out last season. If that didn't happen, they maybe go wide receiver. But now I feel they have someone where they can be like, all right, we can take someone later. And they took Ladd in the second, so now they're comfortable in saying we don't need that first round talent for the wide receiver position. We can go out there and get another position that we need that can be an explosive just as much as well. So with these next picks, we're gonna go ahead and get through it real quick because we have one more offensive player that we're gonna be talking about here. But with these next picks, it's a few IDPs here and some offensive linemen. Green Bay on the clock. They get East Carolina defensive back Seville Revel. If you don't know him, go watch it. This guy can shut it down for you. And this is something Green Bay really needs, especially when you're playing against the NFC North, right? You have Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown there. You have Romo Dunze potentially stepping up, right? Even DJ Moore, but you have some guys that you need that shutdown corner. So this is an opportunity for them to get that and get someone that can, go toe-to-toe with these type of guys. Pick 24, Minnesota's getting defensive lineman Mason Graham out of Michigan, arguably the best one, if not, top 3 for sure. But this is a guy that can definitely hold it down for them. And again, when you're in Minnesota, you're going against Josh Jacobs. You're going against potentially Austin Jency as we have it right now as well, right? So you definitely need it for them as well, just someone that can hold it down in the middle and, kind of close the blocks there for you. Houston, at pick 25, CJ Stroud just got demolished this season, so they're not wasting any time. They're getting Oregon's offensive lineman, Josh Connerly Jr. Absolutely love Connerly. I think this is a great pick for them. This is someone that can easily go in there and start projecting Stroud right out the gate, so this is going to be phenomenal for him to just do some great things as well. Anything pop out to you there, Mike, with those picks?
The Green Bay taking the corner, the South Carolina corner that you mentioned. I think, Green Bay's all over the place with rumors right now. Jair Alexander is possibly being dealt. DK Metcalf is possibly being acquired. So they could end up with multiple first-round picks or down one. I have no idea what they're doing. So again, adding a corner to take the place of Jair Alexander makes a whole lot of sense here.
There you go. Let's get to this next pick though with the Rams. So Stafford got extension. We're doing this draft before, but it still makes sense because if he's already on talks to go out, maybe this is like all right, the farewell season for him potentially. But they actually go ahead and get a quarterback. Where you will rank it, that's up to you. Some have him QB1, some have him QB 5-6, depending on who you're talking to. But Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart goes to the Rams. Spencer, this was your pick. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that no matter like with the Stafford extension, I'm not changing my mind on this. If Jackson Dart falls all the way to 26, he's a no doubt great pick for them. You can spend a year or two behind Stafford, learn from one of the best, and then step in. He's surprisingly young for a guy who's played as much as he has. He's only 22, so he's got time to step in, learn behind one of the greatest of all time to do it, and become their quarterback. They don't have to worry about it. We saw Green Bay do this with Jordan Love, and it worked out really, really well for them. So I think that we see the pick 26 come back here. Rams take their quarterback, and they're set up for the future.
You already have Puka Nacua, and now you just have Stafford kind of teaching you how to slow down the game at the NFL level to a guy that Dart. I think this is a great pick in the sense that, look, guys, just because you're taking these guys are still going to a different level of playing. All these guys that are in college, yes, doesn't matter if you're in the SEC, ACC, Mountain West, whatever it is, the NFL is a different level because now you're playing against the best of the best in the world, right? It's not just it is the world. The NFL has a familiar talent. These guys are all different. Your guys that you're starting against are the top guys. They are the fastest, the quickest, the strongest. Some guys don't translate over that well because they never are able to slow it down and say, how can I get it down to the game speed I need it to? Having someone like Stafford mentioned Dart would be phenomenal. Mike, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is my dream landing spot for Dart. I mentioned this before, so this is a great pick, Spencer. Doesn't get like the elite draft capital, but gets decent draft capital where in super flex drafts, he's going to go in like the back end of the first, early second round pick, which is good value, especially in this offense with Sean McVay. Helps Puka Nacua. And like you mentioned with Matt Stafford, I think the Rams, what I've been reading is that they want to do like a year-to-year contract with him. 1 year here, 1 year there, 1 year everywhere. So this is a good move for the Rams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, especially, you could argue we talk about next year's class, but if you have a guy who come through in and that allows you to get someone, especially if they move on from Cup, saying, all right, we're going to go out there and get Evan Stewart next year, right? Something like that to just say we're going to have some weapons, or maybe they go after a running back, maybe you get Singleton or Katron Allen or even Jeremiah Love, you never know. Some things can happen there for them. So I think this is great, especially if you can have someone that sits. Just because you're taking the first round doesn't necessarily mean you need to start. Sometimes it's better if you sit a couple years and you actually take in the game there too. But let's go ahead and get through these next picks. That was our last offensive one as far as fantasy perspectives, right, on them. So we'll go through those here quickly at the end. But let's go through our next picks here. Baltimore on the clock at pick 27. They just bulk up their defense. Baltimore's all about defense, so they're going ahead and get Mississippi defensive lineman Walter Nolan, a great fit for them. Just again, someone that's gonna do phenomenal things for them there. And then we're going to have Detroit on the clock, pick 28, getting Ohio State edge rusher Jack Sawyer. Could you imagine a defensive front where you had Jack Sawyer and then Aiden Hutchinson on the opposite there? That would just be, that would be deadly there. Then you go pick 29, Washington. This could be a steal because we didn't take him and he had a phenomenal combine. Texas A&M edge rusher Samar Stewart. Washington does need that help. Their defensive front was not great, so you go ahead and get Samar Stewart. Oh boy, you watch out there. Buffalo on the clock at pick 30. They're going defensive lineman Michigan, Kenneth Grant, again, just someone that can help them. They definitely need some better, more pressure on the defensive side, so you can have the offensive, kind of get some rest there, but also someone that's not allowing offenses on the opposite side to go down and run down their throats as well. Kansas City on the clock at pick 31. They're getting Minnesota offensive lineman Ariante Ursher. I don't know if I said that incorrectly. If I did, I apologize. But Kansas City goes there. I think after the Super Bowl, they're like, "Oh snap! We need something to protect him because that was a poor Super Bowl performance there." T-Rex Arm Sawyer. Hey, it does. He gets it though. He goes in there. We saw it in the national championship. This guy he's a threat. He can go ahead and do some phenomenal things. So
I just like
that is
T-Rex
something-
arms.
yeah.
It makes me laugh every
I mean,
time. I
hey,
read
if
something
he's
like
you know
that.
if he's out there doing that, I mean, if he's go
Yeah.
claw him. The good thing about the
I think it's
T-Rex is they have a big head. They can go out there and just eat whatever's in front of them.
But it's
Yeah,
also
I think
crazy they're chickens now, which is insane.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
I mean, the T-Rex arms are the only reason he's here. If he had long
Yeah.
arms and was a little faster, he'd be top 10.
That's true. That's true. And then Philadelphia, pick 32. We're going to round it out here. They're going Boston College edge. Donovan Iziraku. I don't know if I said that correctly. So Boston College finishing off there again. They're just going to add on to their defense. They have, to be honest, Philly cannot have any picks, and they could still be a front runner next year. Like, it's scary that they have picks to adding to their youth there on what they can do. Mike, there was a question to comment, but any picks stood out to you in those final picks that we had there?
I think Philadelphia taking an edge rusher is probably the lock of the century. You can almost lock that every year. Last year, which I was praying for a corner, and it finally happened. But just continuing to build what Philadelphia does year in and year out. So yeah, that makes sense. It wouldn't shock me if Baltimore brings in another wide receiver one way or another, whether it be there or they move back and then draft a wide receiver, because they need somebody to help Zay Flowers out, because Nelson and Bateman are not it. They need a big body type wide receiver like a Trey Harris or something like that can win those big 50-50 balls down the seam or down the sideline. So it wouldn't surprise me if Baltimore somehow, some way ends up with a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds.
For sure. With those, you talked about Trey Harris. We have him in a second. I'll let you know that a little bit inside the rail. We'll do a recap of 2 and 3 when that's all said and done. But there is still talent that we left off the board. Especially we talk about how deep this running back class is. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 12 running backs go in the first 2 days. Like I think that's how good this running back class is, and it's like guys don't want to wait till that 4th round. It's like, man, if we think this is our guy, this is our guy, right? So there's some big moves that we can see here. Before we do a quick recap, I want to answer this question that Stephen B's joining in. Thanks for joining, Stephen. Don't forget to subscribe, and we appreciate your comments here, though. But better prospect, Jalen Hurts or Jalen Milroe? Spencer, I'm gonna let you take first dibs at this.
Okay, so for me, it's a no-brainer, Jalen Hurts. But I was very, very high on Jalen Hurts coming out because I thought his athleticism was very good, but I thought he was very underrated as a passer and a leader. Jalen Milroe, I'll pull up my scouting report here just so I can say exactly, because I have this comp talked about. So it's Milroe is like compared to Hurts, but he's not comparable in my mind because he's such a project player, while Hurts was maxed out in terms of his natural gifts, and people doubted whether he would grow. And what it comes down to is Hurts is able to fit into an offense brilliantly. Milroe needs to grow a lot to fit into an NFL offense. He has all the natural traits, but it's more like an Anthony Richardson project to me than it is a Jalen Hurts. Can we build around this guy project? Right. Milroe, he's faster, he's stronger, he's got a better arm, but he's not polished. So Hurts is by far a better prospect to me, and Milroe is. I love Milroe. Don't get me wrong. I think he's got a beautiful deep ball. I think he has all the talent in the world, but it's a boom bust type of profile. Whereas Hurts was, can we make it work?
Mike, we're doing our quarterback grades. Me and you, and we actually have Milroe very similar in grading. But what do you agree with what Spencer was saying there?
Yeah, pretty much everything. Jalen Milroe, because it's going to screw me up, Jalen, but Jalen Milroe has everything Jalen Hurts has except for the actual just touch passes and stuff like that. The deep ball, Milroe's got that on him already, and because Jalen doesn't have the strongest arm, Milroe can throw like a 90-yard bomb, and it'd be pretty on the mark. Just everything when it has to be short to intermediate is a struggle for him, and I think Jalen actually is pretty good at those type of throws and has been. So if he goes into the right system, into the right, coaching staff, he could end up having a Jalen Hurts type season, but he is trajectory, but he is more of a project than Jalen is, especially just throwing.
Yeah. I agree. The biggest thing is that touch, man. You brought up Anthony Richardson. I mean, that Anthony Richardson has all the arm strength in the world, but he doesn't add that touch, and you need that touch at the NFL level. Or it seemed like Pittsburgh passed on maybe at QB for a first-round running back would be malpractice. Because this QB class isn't great. To be honest, like you could why would you get a QB that's mediocre when you could get a top running back and then get, you could go out there and get a Sam Darnold or another veteran, hell, Jimmy Garoppolo, if you just need that bridge quarterback, and then next year you go out there and get a quarterback. We said a couple of names already, but we're talking about Nico Alamavia, who struggled, but he still has a phenomenal prospect on his radar. He looks great. Arch Manning potentially, Garrett Nussmeier potentially, Drew Aller, Kate Kublik. Next year's class is the year of the quarterbacks. I know last year we had 6 in the first round. Next year's quarterback class is going to be deeper. It's going to be what the running back class is this year. So with this being said, why pass on it? Because you need other weapons, and if you're missing on prime opportunities and weapons, why go ahead and get a QB4 when you could potentially get the RB2, arguably RB1 in this class here, in my opinion?
I think the argument could be made, and I've seen it, and I actually don't mind it, to be honest, is if Jackson Dart is an option at Pittsburgh, would they take him? And I've heard a little bit of rumblings about that, just like on Twitter and stuff. Like, what can you believe? I just take in everything and try to weed out everything. Yeah. But I think Dart would fit in for what Pittsburgh has done previously. He has a good deep ball. It's not the best, but he's a guy who could kind of pick you apart in short to intermediate. And that wouldn't be a bad option for them. And maybe George Pickens will calm down just a little bit, because I don't know if you saw the report that said they don't believe if Jesus himself could come down and be a mentor to George Pickens, but maybe, the right quarterback will help him. I don't know. But, yeah, I actually wouldn't mind Jackson Dart there.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, and, I think that the thing with the first-round running back is when you're talking about, like, an Omarion Hampton, I mean, this is a guy who could define a generation of running backs. I mean, he could change your offense entirely.
Right.
Whereas, I mean, Pittsburgh committed malpractice a few years ago when they picked Kenny Pickett, a mediocre quarterback, who wasn't ready, and put him in right away and didn't give him the tools he needed.
Right.
And you could say, like, well, Najee Harris was also a wasted pick, but Najee Harris provided really good value for that team for a number of years. They just didn't have quite enough around him to kind of elevate, I think. But Hampton is a better prospect, in my opinion, than Harris, and can truly elevate the offense and hammer through. Whereas, like, Dart, I think, needs a year or two to sit. I think he needs to get up to NFL game speed. I don't think you can plug him in. He's got a ton of experience. He might be able to do it in the right offense. I don't think Pittsburgh's that offense.
Do you think it's possible they hold on to the 1 or 2 of either Russ or Fields and then maybe draft like a Jackson Dart? Or for that case, even Milroe in the second?
I think Fields would be a natural fit there. They loved him. He played well.
But if you keep Fields, I don't think you're getting a quarterback because he's a younger quarterback. Where it's like, right. But if it's Russ, for sure. With that, y'all know me, I'm a Najee stan. So I mean, this guy hasn't had a season under 1,000 yards. So I'm just gonna, throw that out there where everyone's like, he's out there. I mean, he's making what he does, what he can with what they give him there as well. Mike, I want to recap these real quick, and I'll have you grade us real quick here. But we're just going to go over their offensive weapons and let us know if yes or no. Just say yes or no if you like the draft spot. Quarterback, Cam Ward, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Quarterback, Shadir Sanders, Cleveland.
If his dad lets him go there. Yeah, probably. I mean, they need a quarterback. They have some Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Nick Chubb, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's not awful, but it could be better.
For sure.
So I would give that one like a B.
Okay. Jacksonville, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, it makes sense on both sides of the ball.
Okay. Carolina, Tyler Warren.
Yeah, makes sense.
Chicago, Ashton Jency.
I don't love that one.
Okay. San Francisco, Luther Burden.
Yeah, I love it. Just because he went ahead of 10.
Dallas, Ted McMillan.
Yeah, that also makes sense.
Okay. Arizona, Mecca Ibuka.
Hate it or love it. I kind of hate it for Marv and Trey, but it makes sense from Arizona's standpoint.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Denver, Colston Loveland.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Pittsburgh, Amari and Hampton.
See, the more that discussion on the quarterback situation goes, I also love that one because Omarion in the first round to a team like Pittsburgh makes the most sense.
Mhm.
But again, they do need a quarterback, so I love it for Hampton. I hate it for Pittsburgh, probably.
I want to throw in one twist. Let's say that Pittsburgh brings in the best mentor Pickens could hope for in Aaron Rodgers.
Oh God, no! We'd be fighting.
I know. I think Tomlin will retire before they bring in Aaron Rodgers. I think
Aaron
if they do
Rodgers.
that, Tomlin's gonna be like, "Nah, I'm going to I don't know who I don't even know. I can't think of a team off the top of the
Gonna
league.
go down to UNC with Bill Belichick on
Yeah.
Hard Knocks.
Remember the
It's like,
video
yeah, good.
of Pickens at the draft where he's just standing in front of the TV going like this? That would be, Aaron Rodgers talking about God knows what, and Pickens would just be staring at him like, "Can we just play, please?"
So Haley love it with Hampton there. Chargers, Harold Fannin.
Oh, I love it, but I don't think it. I think they go a different route.
Okay. And then Dart to the Rams.
I love that one. Great pick by Spencer. Can't applaud him enough for that one.
All right. Well, Mike, we did our 32 round block. This is what me, like I said, Spencer and our guy JT are all working on to complete a 7-round mock. This is just the first round that we completed here, but this is the time that we've been waiting for you as the guest, the honorary guest. Go ahead and grade our mock in the first rounds.
I give it a solid B.
Okay.
Just right.
Beautiful.
Nice solid B, especially for the fantasy options that happen. Yeah, I think a B is fair.
Beautiful. And, we love the Combine Chaplain. Everyone that's watched it, enjoy that. Watch the tape, watch the Combine, get the RAS score. The beauty about all this is we all get together. We all, say our own ranks and everything. It's part of the fun. We don't know until we know, right? And sometimes these guys are 3 years out when they actually boom out. So enjoy the Combine. Go there. If there's a guy that gets hyped up, hey, if you're not a fan of him, go hype him up in your league and make sure you get that trade to get the guy you want as well. But until next time, Mike, you actually, before we do go, I know you have a new show going on, Path to the Draft, I think is what it's called, with our guy Nino at CFB. How's that going, and where can they find you?
Just the plethora of knowledge that Nino throws at me is a lot. I love it. The dude is one of the best in the business at what we do. Love learning from him, love his feedback. He's just one of the best to work with. The Dynasty Dogs, and then I started another Dynasty related podcast from the Triple Threat, Dynasty Triple Threat with Dynasty DNA. So I am the most mediocre co-host and host you could possibly have. So I appreciate everybody that's given me the opportunity, like yourself, SC, and then getting a chance to finally meet Spencer was awesome as well. And again, applause to you for the Jackson Dart pick.
Thank you, man. I was excited about that one. Spencer,
as always great having you on. We go back and forth, just through our phones, just talking to each other throughout this is the type of year where we actually talk a lot because we're like, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? Or, where our ranks are and stuff like that. Anything you will leave, with the first round that we just did and what's to come with our future picks as well?
No, I mean, I want to highlight kind of your hashtag here. Remember Bucky. Combine today. Remember to trust the tape. These guys, we're talking straight line speed, running in shorts right now. You got to use it to contextualize what you see on the field. I like kind of what I put out the other day. As you're going through the combine and watching this stuff, watching the NFL draft, remember what they look like on the field. It's the most
Right.
important thing.
Right, 100%. And as much as we talk about these guys, opportunity matters, right? So be wary on that. If they go to a team that is filled at that position, even as great as they are, it may be hard for them to see that opportunity and get there. But I appreciate everyone that joined us and saw this. This was kind of spurred a moment going live. We will, once we do our round 2, round 3, we'll have another guest, possibly Mike, maybe someone else, to just say, hey, come grade it and what do you think about this? But as always, for the Fantasy Football Universe, I am SC. That is Mike. Also, again, with the FFU as well, go check out him and Rich for the Dynasty Dog podcast through the FFU. They do a great show there that is on Spotify as well. And you can also see their shows on our YouTube channel. So for everyone that's joining in, don't forget to subscribe. We appreciate y'all. And until next time, peace. Go ahead and click this and we'll see. See you guys.